Hi everyone, welcome to the Path to Reason. I'm your host Cindy Plaza, and today there is no intro, and that's on purpose. Um, we're going to talk about gender and identifying as, because a dear friend of mine had shared on Facebook a tweet that said something that was unfortunately very, very much widespread right now. And so we're going to talk about it right now. So let's see that tweet. So it says the notion that you can simply identify as whatever you wish and that everyone must instantly accept it and play along 100% without asking any questions is possibly the silliest idea in modern society. So there are a lot of concepts in this tweet, and I'm going to try and address them all. The first one is the last part is without asking any question. I don't think that is true. I don't think any of us uh, feels like we are above any questioning, that um, we don't feel like we always need to give an explanation. It is true that we don't owe anyone an explanation, but um, the will to provide an explanation depends on the context. Obviously, if you are attacked by someone, then the incitement to explain things then quickly goes down. If you are facing with someone who is trying to be understanding, then you will accept uh, questions, probably all of them, and try to answer them as much as possible. Um, when I announced my transition to my family and my working colleagues and my friends, I accepted all questions, all of them, and I answered all of them the best I could. Uh, this notion that um, talked about in this tweet is, uh, in my opinion, focused on social media talks, which cannot and shouldn't be taken as any metric in anything. If you are trying to be honest and rational and true to yourself and everyone else. So yes, when you are on Twitter and you are under attack because you say you're trans, then yeah, sometimes you say I don't owe you an explanation. Yeah, that can happen. Yeah, because it is true, but it's also true because you don't feel like you want an explanation. You just want to aggress me. So we need to differentiate this discussion framework and the scientific framework. In the scientific framework, all questions should be asked, all questions should be investigated, everything is and should be under scrutiny. Uh, Science cannot have limitations because of, well, maybe there should. Maybe I need to think more about this before I talk more about it. But um, science should be able to ask the question why or how. How does this happen? Why does this happen? Then how science is put in application, then that's not the purview of scientists. It's the societal and political area that should deal with this. But anyway, uh, this without asking question part of the tweet, I don't think this is honest. Then there's this play along 100%. Uh, that's just basic respect. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when goth people started appearing in my school. Uh, I didn't understand what they felt. I didn't understand why they were dressing all in black and the way they did. But that was, I really didn't care. I really, really didn't care. I just played along. Is that how you want to dress? Then okay, if that's how you feel, how you want to express yourself, I, I really don't care genuinely. So I don't know exactly what this specific person means when they say play along, but I suspect from the context of the tweet that it's about pronouns and all those topics that the far right likes to use as an inflammatory topic in order to, keep their base heated up. Uh, but it's just the same. When a woman marries, we stop calling her Mrs. and hi, Kat. Nice to see you. Uh, we change the title. We change her last name as well, and that's societal. So we accept it. Which is why is it a problem to change a pronoun and not a first name or last name? I I don't get it. I think it's just posturing. It's political posturing. That's what it is. Um, then, if we go back more in the tweet, it says, and that everybody must instantly accept it. You don't have to. You don't have to accept that someone is trans, someone is gay, someone is whatever. You don't have to accept it. But if you don't, then I don't have to have you in my life either. I don't have to interact with you either. If you don't accept who I am, then why would I accept first and foremost who you are, but also why would I have to interact with you? If you don't even acknowledge me, then why should I? It's it's painful and it makes me angry and so many emotions to see that something so basic, because it is basic, uh, is used by so many people just for political reasons. I mean, if you were to explain this to a child, you would say, okay, so um, people fall in love with people. Sometimes it's men falling in love with women. Sometimes it's men falling in love with men. Sometimes it's men with men and women with women, or anything in between. It's just love. What is it in there that is so disturbing that so many people think they need to be protective about this towards children? What is it that is so complicated here? There's nothing complicated. Nothing. Um, as for the trans issue, I agree that it is more complicated, and we're going to dive into this much more in depth, because I think it's worth it. I think it's worth trying to make people understand what's going on, because when you understand something, it is much easier to understand it, to accept it. Of course, the fact that we explain it and that there is science to back it up, everything I'm going to say, that won't change the fact that some people, a lot of people, will still use this as an inflammatory topic. And I guess that there's nothing I can do about this, but at least I will do my little part. So let me introduce you, if you don't already know him, and you should definitely already know him, to Dr. Sapolsky. He's one of the greatest neuroscientists in the world, in my opinion. He's a great science communicator. He's plain amazing. He's everything a scientist and a skeptic should aspire to ever be. And so I'm going to show parts of a video he did a few years ago, and where he talked about this topic. So he explains first that our instinct to figure out whether we are male or female is deeply rooted in our evolution, and it's visible in pretty much all animals. He's talking here about communities of baboons where it's observed, but this binary vision is prevalent everywhere, although it's not exactly the reality. There is a video on TikTok made by Forrest. I don't remember his the name of his channel right now exactly, but he's often on the ACA shows, and he explains what is sex and what is binary. And he, in a few minutes, he shows that sex is complicated and binary is not a thing within biology. And that's what Robert Sapolsky says here as well. He explains that basically sorry, wrong wrong tab. Yes, so he explained that biology has been taught in a way that your chromosome determines your gonads. Your gonads determine your endocrinology. Your endocrinology determines your genitals, and your genitals also determine your secondary sexual characteristics. And in this video, he explains that every step of the way, there are variations, are as they are in every biological system. Chromosomes can go into XXX or XX or XY in biology textbooks, but in reality, there can be XXY or XYY or XXYY or just X. There is a lot of variation already there, but even then you follow into the XX or XY stereotype, then your gonads may not develop exactly as they are supposed to be, because some receptors may be at fault, or your genes will produce more testosterone than they're supposed to, or more estrogen than they're supposed to, and there are variations here as well. Then, I mean, you can have some people have partially developed ovaries and partially developed testes, full testes or partially developed ovaries, and everything in between. Then you have the endocrinology part that I just mentioned. Then you have the genitals, where here as well there are a lot of variations. You have people who are born with mixed characteristics, and then doctors feel like they need to enforce one biological sex onto the child, and they make some surgeries, and then later in time they discover that they were wrong and they have to make back some new surgeries. You have these alpha far reductase case, which is to me fascinating in some parts of Dominican Republic, where children who are XY and when they're born, they are phenotypically women, and then when puberty hits, suddenly their body naturally transitions to a male's body, meaning that they grow a penis as soon as puberty hits. And so when I hear so many people telling us, yeah, but variation is not in the main sexual characteristics, bullshit. That's bullshit. Variation exists in biology everywhere, and that's why we cannot say that sex is binary. It's because it's a spectrum. It's not a binary thing. It's not 0 or 1. It's somewhere between 0 and 100%. It's a spectrum. So there is a lot of variation. So let's try and understand why, in the specific case of trans people, we can have a body that seems to be totally in line with what biology says. Like, I am an XX person. I have testes. I have my body creates testosterone, and I have a penis. And so all this is okay, but in the end, in the secondary characteristics, there's the problem of the brain. And so let's see what Dr. Sapolsky says in this case. So I hope
of your son's stem cells got into your circulation, got into organs throughout your body, wherein the ones that got into your brain differentiated into neurons. You've got XY neurons with your son's genome in your brain, maybe 1,000th of 1% nonetheless. If you are male, you got some of mom's stem cells in your circulation when you were fetus, and some of those got into your brain, and you've got some neurons that are XX in there. Your brain is a chromosomal mosaic. So this brings us to now the much more interesting issue in some ways, which is what to make up of the world of people who simply do not feel like their sex is the one the world has assigned them, that their sex is the one that their chromosomes and gonads and and hormones, etc., have assigned them. The world of individuals who feel sexually I'm forgetting what the term is. People who in our world now are known as transgender. So the question becomes what to do with the standard medical interpretation of being transgender, which is you have someone who for some reason thinks they are a sex different from what they actually are. And it turns out something very different is going on. Okay, you look in the brain, and there's all sorts of parts of the brain that are sexually dimorphic, which means that on the average, some trait about that part of the brain differs between males and females, and that's in lab rats and in non-human primates and humans. And on the average, individual differences overlap, but nonetheless, all sorts of stuff in the brain is sexually dimorphic. And just a listing there of some of these, and people spend their entire lives studying sexual dimorphism of some of these parts of the brains. So you take somebody now who chromosomally is sex A, and gonadally is sex A, and hormonally and secondary sexual characteristics and genitalia is sex A, and nonetheless they insist from as long as they can remember, they felt like they were sex B. And you look in their brain, and what a bunch of studies have shown now is all the sexually dimorphic parts of the brain in that person's brain is more like what you see in sex B rather than in sex A. And this is independent of if they are actually transitioning to the other sex, if they've taken any sex hormone manipulations, whatever, independent of that. When you look at somebody whose every bit of their body says they are sex A, and they say, I have always felt like I am sex B, you look in the brain, and the brain says sex B.
So I find that very, very interesting. I discovered it watching his videos, and it explains a lot. I didn't know anything about this sexual dysmorphism in the brain, but actually it explains a lot. Unfortunately, it can also be used to propagate very, very bad ideas, like it's already the case with the trans issues in sports. Like men are supposed to be doing this, and women are supposed to be doing this. And we're going to welcome the author of the Facebook post that we showcased earlier. Hi, Bre, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right, I suppose. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. My sleep pattern has been hectic in the last few days. I had food poisoning a couple of days ago, so I slept all day for 2 days, and so now it's 1:30 a.m. and like like it's the afternoon, Uh, but yeah, I'm doing okay. So
So,
I'm
my
going
Facebook
to
post you talked about, I missed it. I missed it because I was doing my makeup. I'm like, I'm gonna go on camera tonight. I'm gonna put my makeup on. So that's what I was doing. Decided to go goth girl tonight. So hopefully it looks all right.
yeah, you're great.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
just
you're
practicing
great.
with. I had my work makeup on before and switched it out. I'm just practicing with different
Okay.
stuff. I turned 39 yesterday, so I have to work extra hard to make this
Uh,
presentable.
I feel you. I feel you. So you're the reason why there wasn't any intro today, because in the intro there's a clip of you before,
Hmm.
and I didn't want to show you that now. So until this is resolved, I won't show the intro. In any case, did you hear anything of what I said, or
No, I
the video?
literally
I
just
no.
popped. I didn't have you didn't
Okay.
you sent me the StreamYard link, but you didn't send me the YouTube link, and so I didn't get an alert about it. And now
Yeah, I'm sorry.
it's okay.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, because of this big depression thing I have, any task is extremely hard, and so um, I should do more to showcase my videos and to prepare for them, but just don't have the strength right now. So yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, don't be sorry, sweetie. It's okay. I'm just glad I'm glad to come on here and hang out with you too. We don't get to hang out enough. And I love you and I love your content and everything you're
Thanks.
working on here. Is Kat still out there in the audience too? Kat, I love you as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kat. And hi, pending next. I don't know who that is. Never saw you on my channel, but nice to have you here. Um, so I talked about um, the identifying as issue that we often see. I talked about the tweet you shared on Facebook and commented.
Yeah, that one really stung a lot. I am going through a separation. Obviously, all this is I'm too fabulous to be somebody's husband right now, so that had to part ways. But I was sad to see the people that were my family for 15 years while I was in that marriage are suddenly very transphobic and anti-trans about the whole thing, and it was a shock. These people that I sat down to every holiday dinner with for the last 15 years, it would just turn on me like that. But what are you going to do? I can't make people understand or accept what I'm going through. If I could not be going through it, I would. I don't want. I didn't want to lose what I lost because of this, but I couldn't keep this inside anymore. It's I'll
Yes, and
make
and
my makeup run if I start crying.
it's why it's so hard because uh, and that's why I wanted to specifically do this video about the idea of why we feel we are different, um, and why we can't control it. So I'm I'm really sorry to the audience. I'm going to do something I shouldn't do as a content creator, but I'm going to replay what I just played because I need you to hear it and to address it. So um, I was talking about a video about from Robert Sapolsky. I assume you know him. Do you?
Who's that?
Robert Sapolsky?
No, I don't. I don't think so.
No, he's one of the greatest neuroscientists. He's got a lot of extremely interesting content on internet. He's got this series of I don't know 25, 26 videos where he starts from scratch. He's got his lectures at his university, and he starts from scratch uh, in lectures that are addressed to anyone, even someone who didn't study neuroscience or even biology at the beginning. And these lectures they go slowly, more and more complicated, but um, even I was able to follow them until I think 20th video. Of course, I don't grasp all of the specific things he says, but I generally understand what it's about. So, if anyone wants to understand biology and 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 sex and behavior, because he talks a lot about behavior, then Dr. Sapolsky is your guy. So let's hear about what he says around here.
Chromosomal sex, you've got XX or XY, no ambiguity at all, no ambiguity at the gonadal level, at the endocrine level, at the genital level, secondary, and then we come to the brain.
So that's how so far he was explaining in the video that your chromosomes are determined in the very first moment of the fusion between
The sperm cell and the
the
egg.
sperm and the egg.
Mhm.
And then this chromosome determine your gonads, which will determine your endocrine system, which will determine your genitals and secondary sexual characteristics. And so that's how it's taught in biology. And he's explaining how variation exists in every step of the way. And so now he talks about specifically the brain.
And then we come to the world of people who, at least by any standards, have brains that are utterly different than we would have expected. If you are female and you have given birth to a son, as a result, you have neurons in your brain that are derived from your son. You have neurons that are XY. Where'd that come from? During fetal life, some of your son's stem cells got into your circulation, got into organs throughout your body, wherein the ones that got into your brain differentiated into neurons. You've got XY neurons with your son's genome in your brain, maybe 1,000th of 1% nonetheless. If you are male, you got some of mom's stem cells in your circulation when you were a fetus, and some of those got into your brain, and you've got some neurons that are XX in there. Your brain is a chromosomal mosaic. So this brings us to now the much more interesting issue in some ways, which is what to make up of the world of people who simply do not feel like their sex is the one the world has assigned them, that their sex is the one that their chromosomes and gonads and and hormones, etc., have assigned them. The world of individuals who feel sexually I'm forgetting what the term is. People who in our world now are known as transgender. So the question becomes what to do with the standard medical interpretation of being transgender, which is you have someone who for some reason thinks they are a sex different from what they actually are. And it turns out something very different is going on. Okay, you look in the brain, and there's all sorts of parts of the brain that are sexually dimorphic, which means that on the average, some trait about that part of the brain differs between males and females, and that's in lab rats and the non-human primates and humans. And, on the average, individual differences overlap, but nonetheless, all sorts of stuff in the brain is sexually dimorphic. And just a listing there of some of these, people spend their entire lives studying sexual dimorphism of some of these parts of the brains. So you take somebody now who chromosomally is sex A, and gonadally is sex A, and hormonally and secondary sexual characteristics and genitalia is sex A, and nonetheless they insist from as long as they can remember, they felt like they were sex B. And you look in their brain, and what a bunch of studies have shown now is all the sexually dimorphic parts of the brain in that person's brain is more like what you see in sex B rather than in sex A. And this is independent of if they are actually transitioning to the other sex, if they've taken any sex hormone manipulations, whatever, independent of that. When you look at somebody whose every bit of their body says they are sex A, and they say, I have always felt like I am sex B, you look in the brain, and the brain says sex B. So,
what do you think about that?
Well, I want to see the papers on this. Is where this is coming from. These things that they come out, and sometimes they seem too good to be true. So
yes, so I put the link to this specific video in the description. I'm trying to have him on my show, but I don't think he will move just for 200 views, but viewers, I mean, a couple of views. But in any case, it should be possible, and he should be very much willing to give you the papers he's talking about. Later in the video, he says that there are 7 or 8 papers that show this rather
it's called a phenomenon right now, but because we don't know the causes specifically. I mean, like I'm with him what he's saying about the stem cells, because stem cells are going to stem cell, and they get into your brain, you get into your neurons, and they turn into neurons, and that makes sense. That makes sense to me that we would have our mothers neurons, or in other areas of your body too, of course. But yeah, like you were saying about the brain, because those are permanent. You don't shed those, so you still have
Yeah.
the ones you were born with. Anyway,
And he does says that later in the video. He says that we don't know why it works that way. We don't know why this difference in why we have this person who is phenotypically sex A and in the brain sex B. He says we don't know. But he says that the difference on average, he insists several times on the on average, is significantly enough. We can watch a little bit more of the video if you want.
I'm really interested in. I'm going to watch the whole thing at some point, but if you want to watch more of it now.
So what we've got here, just finishing up with this, is all of these dimorphic brain regions can say something absolutely different from what your chromosomes, gonads, hormones, etc. tell you. It is not understood yet where this mismatch comes from, but what we saw on all those other slides, there is you get mismatches every step along the way. There is nothing resembling sexual sort of binary destiny there. And what we're left with at the end is the medical dogma back when. Weird. Some people think they're a sex different from what they actually are. What the neurobiology tells us is instead, some people now and then just have the crappy luck of getting stuck with bodies that are a different sex than what they actually are. Because as a neurobiologist, if I had to vote which voice counts more, what your brain is telling you or what every other part of your body is telling you, I would vote brain, as do these people. Every now and then something happens and somebody gets stuck with a body that's a different sex than what their brain says they are. And this is kind of fascinating. And incidences of these are found in every other primate looked at and all of this. And this is not weirdo biology. This is yet another realm in which biology comes on a continuum.
Yeah, that's the idea I wanted to push tonight, is that biology is messy. Biology is always on the spectrum and not ever binary. We accept that humans can be tall or small. They can be their weight can vary. Their size, color can vary. We have all sort of skin color possible on the planet. We have natural hair color different. We have variation everywhere. Yet when
we
we're
call
talking
it
about
allele
sex,
frequency. Allele frequency is what you're talking about there.
yes,
And I was just looking up more about this guy while we were listening to him and kind of trying to learn who he is and what he's got to say. I guess he's a neuroendocrinologist, which means he basically studies brain hormones. Very, very relevant to the topic that we're discussing, and does seem like he would have some knowledge in the field. So I'm going to go with what he's saying and take it at face value. This is stuff this is all new stuff to me. So I had my birthday stream yesterday, and we actually got there was some rough and tumble about the science of the brain when it comes to transgender identification. Anyway, yeah. So
okay, let's continue, because now he's so the video is about 25 minutes longer, but we won't go up to the end. There are some questions from the audience that will bring up some more information, so I will continue
Sexual
a little bit.
identity, sexual orientation, speciation. There's no dinosaur on Earth who ever gave birth to a bird. Instead, it's intermediate. Everything's on biological continua, and this is one of the coolest, most unexpected realms of it. Okay, so why don't I stop here and see if there's any questions.
There was one question earlier, which was asking for a review of how exactly kind of a chromosomal discrepancy might arise between neurons in most of the body.
In terms of getting something other than the classic XXXY, or the step from chromosomal to gonadal?
The former one.
The former. I think what you get is rare cases where two sperm can both fertilize the same egg at the same time, so that you wind up with 3 sex chromosomes, and whether you are XXX or XXY or XYY depends on what the two sperm were. I think that's the most frequent cause of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the one about the neurons.
Oh, the neurons. How you get that at the level of the brain at the end? Let me see if I can stop sharing. Yes. Okay. About at the level of the brain differentiation, nobody knows. Nobody knows. The model used to be that if you got exposed to testosterone when you were in your testes, you got a male brain. And otherwise, you had the default model of the female brain, and that was shown to be completely false. After a couple of decades of people learning that, you get active sexual differentiation in both sexes there. And what you've got is, every now and then ovaries make some testosterone. Every now and then testes make some estrogen. You do not get clean binary dichotomies like that, and you wind up with a brain that is not cleanly binary in that sense either.
Another common question I'm seeing in the chat is about kind of what, like phenotypically, what these differences in the brain might actually induce, what characteristics are changing, and fundamentally what kind of the differences are in the brain between the sexes.
Yeah, great question. No surprise, this has generated a lot of controversies. There's one version of this. So what is the disease called? I'm forgetting what it's called. I should know this, but in any case, it's one of these where you wind up with a female phenotype amid a lot of testosterone exposure in the brain. And in the 1950s, everyone was totally excited when this was discovered to see, so what's the behavior of these girls like as they're growing up? And all sorts of studies were done. This group at Johns Hopkins pioneered it. And within a decade or so, they had the answer, which was these girls grew up with all sorts of abnormal behaviors. And then you looked at what counted as abnormal behaviors in 1950s textbooks of endocrinology. They were less interested in dolls than girls are supposed to be. They said they were less interested in getting married someday. They were more interested in careers. At some point, all the endocrinologists said, uh-oh, I guess that was kind of stupid questions to ask. That's not really what we're trying to understand here. So they had to go back and do the studies all over again. And what they find now, modern versions of it, someone named, what is her name, Hines at Cambridge, is sort of the king of that. And what she's showing is, on the average, girls with this syndrome have higher levels of aggression, higher levels of reactive aggression to provocation than boys do. And as adults, this is what you see. Whoa, okay, so we've just discovered something about testosterone in the brain pushes you inevitably in that direction. Two things, though, problems with that in terms of the behavior. The first one is saying on the average. There's lots of overlap between the two. There's variability, blah, blah. The other is the biggest problem that does in this entire field of study, which is you were not simply born with a brain that had some of those things happening, but as we saw in all of those, you've got sexually ambiguous genitalia. You got born, and from birth, everybody was kind of interested in what was going on in your crotch there. And you had 3 or 4 rounds of reconstructive surgery when you were a kid. And everyone didn't quite talk about it, but you get raised differently. And what you see is, thanks, there's absolutely no way to differentiate the biology of what's going on in these disorders and the effects on the brain from how you're raised because of having been born this way, and all the ways in which this is a challenge to society as to how to deal with you now. So there's absolutely no answers.
So I wanted to ask you about this. What's your take on this?
Well, I I'm not familiar with exactly what condition he's talking about there with the young girls with the higher testosterone levels that they did the studies on. It doesn't surprise me that in the 1950s they were checking for what do they call biblical gender roles, because we were right in the middle of
Yeah.
we were right in the middle of this
The
Christian revolution
McCarthyism.
and anti-communism, Christian revolution stuff that happened in the 1950s. So find them trying to find the gay gene or whatever they were looking for when they did this. It does not surprise me at all, and I think that there's been the hunt for the gay gene for a long time, and hunt for the trans gene. I don't think we're going to find something like that. It's going to be a suite of environmental and biological factors that come into play that create a person with, like yourself and myself, that we're in here. There's a woman driving the ship, but we're stuck with these stupid boy bodies that we have to try to manipulate into matching what our brain needs for us to fit in with society.
Yeah, that reminds me of Dr. John Money in the 70s. Remember that?
Dr. John Money.
Yeah. So he wanted to show that gender roles were only acquired and not innate. So he took a couple of twins. One of them had not binary conforming genitalia. So he decided, okay, that's the perfect test subject for me. So I'm going to. So originally they were two boys. So I'm going to turn this into a girl at I don't know, less than 1 year old, and he told the parents, "You're going to raise that child as a girl, and so since they are twins, we will be able to watch them evolve and prove my theory that gender is." Has nothing to do with biology, but only it's learned behavior.
I know the case you're talking about now. I didn't remember the doctor's name, but Dr. John Money, I'll have to, but I know the case because that girl ended up transitioning when she got to adulthood.
Yes,
I remember watching interviews
and then
with
during childhood, this boy, because it was a boy, he got some anger issues because he felt trapped in his body. And his twin brother, he had all sort of mental issues because he was felt left alone because the other one was demanding all the attention because of those issues. And this experiment broke the entire family. The one of the parents committed suicide. The other died out of alcoholism, I think. The brother also, I think, committed suicide. And after the transition, the boy in question also, I'm not sure he's still alive as well. So yeah, that's part of our history of science.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what they do when they start getting into any new field of study scientifically. There's some gross mishandling in the early years. But yeah, I knew that there was some suicides that resulted in that. I didn't know there were so many though from that situation. But I can't feel anything but sympathy for that family. It was a door one or door two decision that they, or I don't know, maybe the doctor say no, we're gonna turn this child into a girl.
Yeah, well, actually, the guy already was on TV regularly spouting his ideas, and so when the parents saw the weird genitalia of their child, they saw him on TV and said, "Hey, maybe he could help," and so he used this situation to prove he was right, basically. It's a case of massive ego in science, and we know where that leads.
Yeah, there's just in this guy's an endocrinologist, so on the especially a endocrinologist. They're going to be right there on the cutting edge of our discoveries. That's where this topic is going. That's where we're going to find our answers at. I think is brain chemistry in how things are happening. That's where it's biological, and that's where the biology is happening. The brain, though, is just so complex and has not. We've barely brushed the surface on understanding the human brain. So, it's there may be. It's going to be a long time coming. It isn't even going to be in our lifetime. I don't know.
Yeah. You mentioned homosexuality earlier. I remember a lecture from a French scientist who is also it's Pierre Balthazar, I think his name is something like that, and he's been no Jacques Balthazar, which is a very very French sounding name. And so basically, he's saying that according to current knowledge, homosexuality is roughly 40% caused by genetics, roughly 30% epigenetic, and the rest is endocrinology. I think it's something like that. So yes, it won't be one clear answer that every simple person out there would like to. Just like it's binary, he's a man or she's a woman. It will be complicated in the end, I'm sure.
And just reiterate that sex and gender are two different things, but we're going to find out more new information about both of them in endocrinology and how they're connected with each other too, because this is the field of how your hormones respond to what your brain's telling them to do. That's the whole study, and if you add these hormones or those hormones, you can elicit different changes, and we can observe that and make inferences and collect data on that. And this is where we're going to be going with both sex and gender and how they're connected.
Yes, I don't know if you saw this, but I made a chart to show this, so I'm going to showcase it because I think this should appear more often. So oh, it's Chrome. He will only share the screen, so just give me a second. Okay, so that's how I no, that's not what I wanted to do anyway. Yeah. So here I made for each bar because I wanted to do something clear, but the pink and the blue should mix. There shouldn't be a straight line between the two. It should go from pink to blue, slowly degrading the color. But other than that, it should be accurate.
So the pink and the blue should gradient together. Then there should be a
Yes.
purple in between.
Yeah.
There. Okay. Sorry, I'm just exploring it with my eyes. Just give me a minute. And if you look at it, one of my favorite things about it is where it says what percentage of this matters, what other people say about what you should be. Because I like how you included as much of that matters, because it's not even on there.
Yes. At first, I had fused the sexual behavior and uh, and sexual attraction,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought it was worth separating because uh, there can be different, and especially because of societal norms, and that's a very interesting topic to talk about. Like when you're gay and you are put to death if people know, then your sexual behavior will change, but that won't change your sexual attraction. And so the idea behind all this is that they are each row here is separate than the other, but there are connections. As you just said, there is a connection between your biological sex and your gender identity, because otherwise it wouldn't be only a few percent of transgender; it would be 50%. So there is indeed a connection. There is also a connection between this and romantic sexual attraction. Uh, Again, that's why we see only a small percentage of gay or bi or everything else. But yeah, I think that's visually clear, and that's what I was going for.
Yeah, I like it. It looks good. Did a great job. I'll take a copy.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll try to make it better looking, but I'm very bad at graphics and all that. So if there was anyone in the chat who would be able to make a better job, you can contact me and we'll talk about it. But yes, we need to have this discussion that all of this has to be talked both individually and as a whole, because you cannot have just the talk about like sexual behavior without the talk about everything else. You cannot talk about biological sex without talking about gender identity and gender expression. You have to talk of each topic in the context of the entire package.
Yes, they all we're all again, and it's I say that about sex, and a lot of people say, "Oh, sex and gender, you got to separate them," but they do intermingle and interact with each other. That's
Yeah.
why everybody is unique, and we're all someplace slightly different on these two gradients and how they relate to each other. We're all just a little bit different. Some people like to pretend like, especially cis het men, they like to pretend that they're all the way over here, and I'm this exception. I'm hard this way in sex and gender both, but really there's a lot more to it than what you think. Even, and I was harping on this the other morning too. If you haven't had your chromosomes checked, you don't even know if you're intersex or not. So
Yes.
you just assume based on the way that you feel and the way that your biology expresses. You don't know. You could be intersex. You could be a chimera. You could have, like he was talking about with the brain, you could have more neurons in your brain that don't match up than average.
Yes, he earlier in the video, he also talks about if you go into a mall and you take everyone and you make them take an IQ test, and then you make them go through an entire biological sex check, like to determine everything about their biological sexual characteristics, there would be more of those people than people who have an IQ above 140, which is insane in a way, because we see people with this kind of IQ. Okay, they're a bit smart, but it's common. It's not a big deal. But those intersex people, they're no, we don't want to deal with them. We don't want to include them into any classification. So,
or even something as common as like green eyes. Half the population of the transgender that are out right now is half the population that has green eyes. It's half the number of people in the world that has green eyes. So that's it's just point is it 0.02 or just 0.2? I can't remember. It's point. It's two. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that that's that much of the population.
Yeah. It's like there are as many intersex people as there are red hair people as well.
Yeah.
So yes, we don't want to face this issue as a society, because again, earlier in the video he talks about the alpha 5 reductase issue in Dominican Republic, and he talks about the way society adapted to it, and he says that although I read that there were still some cases of superstitions and hatred towards those people. Mostly the society adjusted to it. They say, okay. He says, he has this quote I love. He says, you reach puberty. Sometimes you get acne. Sometimes you get a penis. So they integrated these facts into their framework and their gender norm and I lost the word here, but yeah, for them it's normal. It's part of the normal continuum of biology, and there is no reason why we shouldn't do the same.
Pull up Titan's comment there. That's funny. He said, "I did not know that I am non-binary. I have blue-green eyes, and of course, I'm a genius."
So basically, you're part of the 0.0001% of the population.
Ew, ginger. What? Yeah, we make accommodations in society for genders. I mean, we are gingers. We invented sunscreen for them, sun hats, those kind of things for gingers. So let's make accommodations for trans people in society too, huh?
Yeah. I also wanted to show this comment because yes, it's important that some people move away from biases and just keep on studying, and that's important, and that's why I like Dr. Sabolsky. He just doesn't seem to care about social norms. He just tells you the data and what it seems to mean, and that's all, and he doesn't care about the rest, and I like that.
Yeah, and being nice to people you're attracted to. That's gross. I feel like there's a overwhelming portion of the population who is that way, especially to people that they find especially unattractive. What, you can be mean to somebody because you're not attracted to them. It's so weird to me. Because Wes was saying that in the side. I don't get it. I just be nice to people because I'm a nice person. Because it's good to be nice to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's another topic I'm going to talk about in a near video, but I need to think more about it. It's um, help people realize how much of our instinct we have to shut down in order to live as a society. Uh, People don't realize that they think that we go through our lives with our we're with our instincts, our again I'm
You're
forgetting
just
the word,
the
but
biological drivers in general.
yes, but they don't realize how much we need to shut them down in order to live with other people.
Right.
Um,
We're
and,
very
and, and,
selfish
and, and
animals. We have to make an effort to not be selfish, right?
exactly. And what you just said about being good to people, uh, it's uh, it's also one of those cases because yesterday I read a Facebook post about a person who was uh, assaulted. There is no other word by someone who came to their door and started preaching and preaching and preaching and didn't give them any time to stop or answer or anything. And these people rely on our societal incitement to be polite and to be good, and they use that against us. And so um, that's what popped my thinking about this fact that we have to push our instincts a lot to live as a society.
Yeah. Yeah. You have so many basal instincts that you fight against. That's why humans are considered children for 18 years because they're still learning uh, to resist those basal urges to react with what their biological nature is telling them to do, uh, and learn how to live in a society among other people. Because unlike ants and bees, it just doesn't come innately. You actually have to be trained to be a social creature as a human being.
Yes, you have to train to manage your emotions, and that's one of the
Your
most.
behaviors and yes, yes,
Yes, that's yeah.
yeah. One of the coolest couples I ever knew was a short, skinny, effeminate guy and his tall, big boned, masculine wife, and their three perfectly average, gender conforming kids.
Yeah. So one last thing I wanted to talk about in this video. I'm not going to look for the exact time where he says that, but it's still this question that I don't know about you, but I had several times is I'm a man and I don't particularly feel like a man, or I'm a woman and I don't particularly feel like a woman. So how can you be a man and feel like a woman? And Dr. Sapolsky here in this video has a very good answer that I like is uh, about 120 years ago, being left-handed was criminalized. If you used your left hand to write at school by that time, you would be hit by a ruler or even worse, and you were forced to conform to the right hand writing at the time. And so, what would it have been being asked this question at the time? How do you feel being like being left-handed? What how does it feel like? It's uh, as much as I understand the question, it's a nonsensical question. you you
Right.
you
Yeah.
you,
How do you
you you
how do
don't
you
you don't
describe that?
feel it's how do you feel why do you feel happy well I just feel it, it's who I am. And to come back to the tweet you shared, and I'm going to share it again because
Yeah, it personifies the argument here with this person
yes,
saying it's I want, and this is the same person. I mean, this is the same argument in the comment section below this. There was the argument being made. It's basically people arguing for their rights to call black people the N word or something along those lines. Yeah, you can do that, but should you? You know,
yeah,
should
yes,
you
exactly.
use that language if you know that it's offensive to that group of people, even if these folks that are making these posts like this, they think that we're this is mental illness. This is what mental illness looks like, and to uh, but to say that we're mental okay. Let's go with that. If someone's mentally ill, and there's a treatment plan where it says if we let these people transition into the sex that their brain is, let them conform and become that part of society, and us as a society treat them and talk to them and engage with them as if they were uh, perfectly within that demographic. Why would you deny somebody that if you knew that it was part of their treatment for an illness that you thought they had? Why would you say, you know what? I know that there's an illness and this is a treatment plan, but f you, I'm going to do what I want. Who does that to someone? That's
Yeah,
like
but
getting
from
mad
from
about in disabled parking spots or something. It's ridiculous.
the thing is, from their perspective, it's like, and I made a video a few weeks ago about the argument. Why can't I be an octopus or a toad? You've heard that as well. It's if someone says, "Okay, I'm Napoleon," then you're not going to indulge in this. You're going to try to send them back to reality. So, from their perspective, is their reality is that we are from the sex and gender should be the same. So I should be a man, and so I should be pushed back into
Being
reality,
which is more,
into
and I'd
reality,
say,
what they think it is.
yeah, and I'd say it's more akin to the gay stuff back in the 80s and stuff, the way that they
Yeah.
were about being gay and conversion therapy in that
Yes.
direction.
Yeah.
This is just the next step in it, obviously. But there's a difference between feeding into someone's delusion about them being Napoleon and then understanding that someone has, like what our Dr. Sapolsky, which I really liked and I'm going to follow up with, um, what he was demonstrating was that there are biological factors that we detect here. So this is a thing that's actually happened. It's not just a delusion. We're not, you and I aren't just like, oh, we're crazy and we no, there's stuff that's different about our biology that makes us what we are, and the fact that we need to be able to be part of our society and fit in where we feel like we should be, where my brain is telling me I belong, then you making the extra effort to deny me that is just cruelty. It's just cruelty to my medical condition. If you think it's an illness or not, it's
Yeah.
there's no benefit to you to do that.
But and I'm not definitely not trying to find excuses for them, but it comes from a place of ignorance about what Dr. Sapolsky says, and that's why I do these videos. It's so that people realize that this is what it is, and that this knowledge comes out, because that's important. Because the view of my entire channel is that I I don't want to be fighting religions. I don't want to be uh, um, fighting for LGBTQ rights. I don't want to be fighting for uh, uh, against racism. I just want people to know the truth about these topics so that those prejudices disappear from themselves. That's the choice I've chosen, and I've followed it for 2 years, and I think I will stay like this at least for a long time, because I don't think it's um, it's viable on the long term to fight every single discrimination. Uh,
Yeah, you don't have to fight them all at
one
once.
at a time. One at a time. It's useless. It's useless because, as we've seen with trans people, the prejudices against gay people, when they have to leave, they don't disappear. They move to another category
Yeah.
because we attack the people and not the false knowledge that's at the base of the discrimination. And if we do that, then they won't switch because they will realize that they are wrong.
Well, and usually they have a vested interest in the argument, even if they wouldn't be wrong, even if they were proven they were wrong.
Yes.
They have
Yeah.
to stick to that. It's the same. It's the same deal with like a young Earth creationist. When you got an idea that doesn't backed up by the science, you have to create your own science to back up your ideas, and reject the mainstream science or in this instance, the actual medical science of neuroendocrinology.
Yes, but sometimes when we spend too much time on social media, we tend to see that those people who have an invested reason to be against something, they are the norm. Where in fact, a lot of people don't know and don't care. If you go into the street and choose one person randomly and you ask them, what do you think about being transgender? The most likely answer you will have is, I don't know, or something about this. The statistics of having someone like the one you have on this tweet, that's
Yeah,
on
there's
the
just
average population, it's a small portion. So
well, here
the
in this part of the country, they're more of the population. I'm in the Midwest,
yes,
so it's
yes, yeah,
it's
of
not as
course,
rare
yeah.
here. I
Yeah,
get
it
stateside.
depends of where you are also.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know that I'm very privileged in this way, but still I think it's worth doing the effort to educate people.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything else you wanted to talk about?
Um, well, I'm trying to get. I should have my show back on schedule for tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Live from the Hive. I don't know what the layout's going to be like just yet, but I'll see what I can do. I get a better connection. That was an issue that arose last Saturday and made it hard to deal with. I will probably be sitting right here though when you Live from Hive. I'm also co-hosting with Math Pig tomorrow
Yeah.
night. So come hang out over there. We're just open panel talking whatever. I'm sure I'll bring up a bunch of science stuff and bore everybody, but we'll loop it back around and make it fun. I'm sure. Uh, Now, yeah, hopefully I'll be back in the Hive in some way, shape, or form uh, before too long. But just bear with me and much love from the Hive.
Yeah. How are you doing emotionally right now?
Um, we'll talk off live. I don't want to air my dirty
Okay.
laundry on publicly, but yeah, there's a lot going on now.
Okay. Well, I went through that as well, so I wish it gets better. Show them our video maybe,
Mhm.
or just Robert Sapolsky's video maybe. But yeah, I hope it gets better. Um,
Yeah.
I know it's a very tough couple years, 3 years, depending on how the medical procedure goes.
Well,
So I
so
wish you the best.
I'm technically I'm 1 year into my transition because I did my social transition over the last year.
Mm.
Um, it did. Hopefully, the next steps of the transition are easier because, yeah, this has not gone well.
Okay, so send
Yeah.
me an email to your show tonight, and I will add it to the description of the video.
Yeah.
Um, in the meantime, I'm going to wish everyone a good night, day, whatever. It's almost 2:30 a.m. here, and I
Mhm.
don't feel like I need to sleep. It's crazy. If you want to help my channel, you can like subscribe, like you can go to my Amazon wish list, which will be in the description of the video, and buy me a couple books to help me educate myself on those topics. I might start a Patreon in the weeks in the next coming weeks, because I want to move from this place to have a better setup, but the rent is going to be probably significantly higher, so I might need some help for that. But I'm still not decided yet, to be honest. I have a strong resistance toward this. I really don't want to monetize my channel. I don't think the quality uh, warrants it. But anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks, Bre, for showing up, and thanks for your insights. I will add the link to Sapolsky's video and everything, so you can also educate yourself. And in the meantime, I wish you a very nice weekend.
Bye.